I got, my wife bought me a new set of custom golf balls. Right? I had
They wear quite a bit. I guess I really noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Well, now I'm back. Once a month, I I'll do it.
Numbers?
I could get it on.
Happy New Year.
There it goes. Whenever you're ready, Rita.
Will this be a short spell here?
You okay?
Well, not a whole lot. Let's call the meeting to order. Please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rita, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ganger?
Here.
Commissioner Stanley?
Here.
Commissioner White? Here. Commissioner Ortline? Here. Mayor Morgan?
Here.
Let the record show that the town attorney, Mr. Randolph, and the town manager, Mr. Reiser, and the police chief, Mr. Ward, are all present.
We've been presented with the minutes from the December 11th meeting. Are there any corrections, changes, or additions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortline?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Read any changes or additions to the agenda?
I have none.
Thank you. Our next meeting is February 12th. Any commission member feel that they may not be here? If not, great. Communication from the public. Anyone wish to speak? Mr. O'Boyle?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Town Manager, Mr. Town Attorney, Mr. Chief of Police, and Madam Clerk. Well, the new year is now upon us, and considering that, I've taken the liberty of preparing some proposed New Year's resolutions for the mayor, the commissioners, the town manager, and the town attorney, collectively I shall refer to collectively as the Gang of Seven. So here it goes. To the commission, the reckless spending as applies to the mayor's outrageous and losing litigation strategy must stop. If there is concern about public records, a records person should be hired to scan the town's records for handling responses to the public records. That person could likely be hired for $30,000 per year, or $37 or so per year versus the millions that the town is spending on legal fees fighting a windmill akin to a Don Quixote. To Ms. White and Mr. Stanley, I urge the two of you to please exercise independence. You don't have to sink with the ship of this failing mayor. Mr. Ganger, I hope you left your hot air from 2015 in your car, and I also hope that during this year of 2016, we will not see a reoccurrence. Please remember that being truthful is virtuous. Ms. Orthwine, you should clean up your image and perhaps seek psychiatric help for what, in my opinion, is pure viciousness. Quit playing follow the leader with the mayor. If you intend to disregard these words of wisdom, at least find a real leader to latch on to. Also in 2016, be productive. Do the right things. As an example, your family became rich selling alcohol products, which we all know kills people and destroys families. You should take a good portion of that wealth and donate it to charities that deal with families whose lives were shattered because of alcohol. Incidentally, although I and many others in the town have difficulty with Mr. Thrasher, I don't think you should be calling him an idiot. Mr. Thrasher, as I recall, some or all of the commissioners stated it may be time for you to move on. You should be resolved to do just that. If you did, it would make many folks in Gulfstream very happy, and going forward, you would not have to concern yourself with Ms. Orthwine referring to you as an idiot, nor would you have to concern yourself about being booted from your job as Ms. Orthwine represented she would do. Mr. Randolph, 2016, be honest and empathetic, and rid yourself of the arrogance and pomposity which you have taken on to appease the mayor. You should also look at what you and Ms. O'Connor are doing to people's lives and to their pocketbooks. Mayor, time won't allow me to tell you what you really should do, nor will time allow me to tell the people what you are about. To do so, I will need an extra 10 or 15 minutes. But during this new year, be prepared for me. Be prepared to be exposed. You will start in central Pennsylvania, then move on to your wife and her treatment of her brother. And in that connection, I will remind you of a lawyer named H. Robert Feeback. You remember him, don't you? The viciousness which you carry is not common to a public official, nor is the reckless spending of the people's money. If you believe in what you're doing and that the town will retrieve all of its costs, why don't you and your groupies fund the litigation that you and they are so proud of and eliminate the burden on the taxpayers? And ultimately, be a man, be responsible and accountable. It is not manly to hide behind the skirt of immunity. Waive it if you are confident in your actions being proper, and don't if your actions are improper, untrue, slanderous, and or criminal. Lastly, vacate your decorum order. It is implausible to try to enforce it upon the people when you're the #1 violator. You are a little man, be a big man. Shed your Napoleon-like tendencies as you have already met your Waterloo. To the people of Gulfstream, you hear the mayor, you're aware of the ever-increasing taxes, and you're aware of his failed policies and reckless spending and behavior. Wake up, pay attention, you all have intelligence, and use it, and let's get rid of this bum. Happy New Year to everyone.
Anyone else care to speak? All right, let's move on to our public. Ms. May, Mr. O'Hare.
New Year, everybody. I feel like a lounge crooner who's just kind of follow Frank Sinatra. I apologize in advance if I'm not as entertaining as Mr. O'Boyle. He's a much better speaker than I am. I was prepared to talk about the Coastal Star and the comments Your Honor has made, but I feel like I'm talking to a wall, so I'm not going to bother. I do have a question, though. I know I've been criticized for asking for too many public records, and really, that's the only way I can ever get anybody to actually force them to answer a question. I have asked questions before, and been instructed to talk to Mr. Thrasher. Mr. Thrasher doesn't want to reply, and I can understand why. But I do have a question this morning, and I know you don't normally answer my questions, you do other people, but I'll try one more time. I've asked Mr. Thrasher if I can park my commercial vehicles on town property. Can't get an answer. I've been taking pictures for months of commercial vehicles parked on town hall property. All over Christmas, all over Thanksgiving, 24/7. And I just would like to know, may I be afforded the very same opportunity to park my commercial vehicles on town property? I want you to just send me to Mr. Thrasher.
It's not a question and answer period. We go through this every month, so.
Well, I just
You
thought,
you know the answer.
I'm
These
a
are
sucker
rhetorical
for
questions
hopefulness
that
and,
you ask.
I'm sorry.
These are rhetorical questions that you ask because you know the answer.
Is the answer no?
It's not a question and answer period, Mr.
Oh.
O'Hare.
Okay. Well, I'm a hopeless, hopeful person. I just thought maybe someday I'd get an answer. Perhaps Mr. Thrasher will answer me this week. I spoke to Mr. Joel Chandler about this. We'll save that for another time when there's someone who actually listen to.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else care to speak before we move on? Okay. Let's go to the public hearing. First, any ex parte communications by commission members on any of the applications?
I drove by both the properties down here.
I actually attended the ARPB meeting on the 2530 Avalon Soleil application. Rita, would you have any witness who intends to testify on behalf, I think we have 2 applications today. If you all please rise and be sworn in.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, first application is Mr. Wiedema on 2530 Avenue au Soleil.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I'm bringing forth a home located on Paso Soleil. It is a Anglo-Caribbean style home. The home adheres to your zoning regulations in every way. There are 3, bring to your attention 3 discouraged items that we should discuss and we should be aware of. One of them is the beam height from the first floor is at 11 feet, which is 6 inches higher than what is preferred. The beam height for the eve height for the second floor is at 23 feet as opposed to 21 feet. We need that in order to get the mechanical space to work and get a little bit more height in the first floor. The main first floor living spaces are beneath the second floor, so we want to get some height in there. And the third item is that, even though the drawings aren't reflected, we discussed it at the ARPB meeting, is that the owner's request that we don't have to put any mutton bars on the sliding glass doors in the rear that are under the loggia, which is right back in here, back in the covered area for the on screens. But those 3 items are the only 3 discouraged items. The house is an Anglo-Caribbean style house. It has a charcoal gray roof. It is painted in cliffside gray, which we refer to as orthwine gray. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask? Oh, there is one other item I forgot to mention, is that on the first floor there is the master bath is on the first floor area in the front of the house. And towards the front of the house, we've extended the master bath out into an area that is a courtyard for an outdoor shower with a trellis over the top of it. And we consider this a unroofed trellis covered extension of the house. Which you can see the element right in this area, right in here. A little different than what we've done before. Just want to bring that to your attention. It is not attached to any of the sidewalls or courtyard walls. It is part of the house.
Are you finished?
Yes.
That was short and brief. A couple of questions. Is the bulkhead that is there now, will that remain as is? You brought a client recently who wanted to increase the height of the bulkhead, which in this case, I believe, is just around 5 feet.
We are changing the bulkhead. We are putting in a new cap and new caps, and we're going to do at this point concrete dock that'll be tied into the new cap. You make it all one.
But is it at 5 feet where it is now? Or
We're proposing it right now at 5 feet, but we wouldn't have no objection to raising it 6 inches like we did in the other house. We haven't really addressed that issue at this point.
Okay. But I think because it is a waterfront property, and because in the future there probably will be some changes in our ordinances to heighten the bulkheads, if sea levels continue to rise, then
Yes.
I suppose you probably would wish you did it
Right.
when you build it, as opposed to sometime later. That's something I think you should consider. I don't know whether or not this commission wants to.
Is it something that we need to address at this point? Or is this
Well, no,
something
I think it's something that we're gonna probably address on all ocean water properties, particularly down in the, along the intercoastal at some point in time. So, you know, if your client would rather see it a little higher, I guess that would be something that.
I think we'd love to have that option.
Okay.
Is that part of this application?
It's not.
It is, I realize that, but
It's not.
you gave us the information, so therefore we can
Right.
respond to it. Would you imagine that the design of the house would continue with this kind of interesting plantings on the trellises and everything else? Is that part of your
Yes, it is.
client's desire?
Yes,
Very
it is.
attractive, and I think will make a difference. I had a question, and really this has nothing to do with an application, it's more a general question. You have the gutter coming down, a scupper along the wall. Does the water then come down through the wall?
Yes, it does.
It does.
They're called collection boxes, and
Yeah.
they run pipe inside, so we don't have to see downspouts going down
As
2
someone who's had
stories.
those pipes finally give way and had a leak in the living room, you may want to, you know.
Now you're hurting me with my clients.
No, I'm serious.
They have complete confidence in me, and you're
Yeah,
making
well,
me lose it.
that was
Vinyl
probably.
chloride.
Yeah, maybe the technology has.
I think that's right, mine were made.
It's not gonna be soldered
Stone.
copper pipe.
Yeah, okay, all right. I personally think it's a nice design, and it certainly will enhance the neighborhood. As I recall from going there yesterday, the house to the south is a 1 and 2 story.
Yes, it is.
And I don't remember what was the house, but it's kind of circle, so.
I believe that's a 1-story house.
Okay.
Comments by neighbors?
We had a call from the association. They had looked at the plans and they like them very much.
Okay.
I like the gray roof with the cliffside gray. Idea.
Any other questions?
The sliding glass doors that aren't divided.
Right.
Okay. What would be the dimensions of I mean, they have to have some kind of panel,
They're approximately 4 feet wide.
about 4 feet, and they would like telescope or
They pocket, actually,
pocket into the wall.
in the wall. The whole idea is on the houses of this living space, which is completely open here. When you open these doors up into these pockets, it all becomes just one big space. Then actually, this has phantom screens that roll down when it's appropriate. There's insects or whatever in it, so you can just make this one big space.
Other questions? Mr. Weezer? If not, if anyone want to make a motion?
Excuse me,
I'm sorry, Mr. Fletcher.
Mr. Weezer,
Yes.
could you tell me again, in regards to this courtyard trellis wall area, is that architectural element attached to the structure?
Yes,
And in regards to the side and courtyard walls, are they attached, connected to the trellis wall area?
no, they're not.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address the commission. Mr. Weetz's application.
Sure. Mr. Wall?
Good morning again. I own a house that in Gulfstream on South Hidden Harbor Drive. Mr. Wheatsma is building the house immediately adjacent to me. I've been around a lot of construction sites, and I have several properties where construction has adjoined me.
I mean, this particular application is across from your house?
No, I'm speaking to Mr. Wheatsma. Mr. Wheatsma, just hear me out.
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
all
sir.
right.
And I just wanted to say that although in my 46-year career I can't remember every house, but in connection with the house he's building now, I do not recall ever seeing a cleaner, well-run job. And I think the town ought to be very proud that he's building here, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Anyone else? And if not, if there are no other questions from the commissioners, we'll entertain a motion.
Make it. All right. Regarding the application 015-14, 2530 Avenue Au-Soleil LLC, address 2530 Avenue Au-Soleil. First motion to recommend approval of a demolition permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Rita?
Before you vote, Mr. Mayor, may I comment? I think that's Robert's Rules of Order, but thank you.
Well, but you were given an opportunity and did not, but we'll indulge you.
Well, thank you very much for that, sir. This house is directly across the street from my house, and I'd like to just make a comment on it. When I was an intern as an architecture student at a zoning director in Fort Lauderdale, he explained to me the, what he called the drawbridge mentality. Everybody who builds a house in this town has disrupted their neighbors and caused a mess, and then they want to immediately pull up the drawbridge and say, I don't want a mess next door to my house. And I've listened in this chamber, while other people have complained about construction. But I'd just like to say, I haven't examined this, but I know Mr. Witsman is a great architect and builder, and I know he's going to do a wonderful job. And I just want to put on the record, you're never going to hear a peep out of me about any inconvenience regarding this construction. I welcome it. It's improving the values of Plaza Soleil, which God knows needs improvement values. And I hope you all vote to approve it. Thank you.
Very good. All right, we have a motion to recommend approval of the demolition permit, which was second. Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Mr. Stanley?
Motion to recommend approval of the land clearing permit.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Third motion to recommend approval of the special exception to permit 204.3 square feet of a covered unenclosed area that exceeds the maximum floor area ratio as per section 70-72B2.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Motion to recommend approval of level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed parcel 2-story single-family Anglo-Caribbean style dwelling consisting of 5,320 square feet, attached 2-car garage and swimming pool meets the minimum intended design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the owner of the property shall prepare and record a deed restriction which shall provide that all roof projection areas shall remain unenclosed as per approval of the special exception for as long as the structure is in existence or exceeds the maximum FAR. 2, any minor modifications in the landscape plan shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of the landscaping. Item 3, plans to be submitted to Boston Soleil Homeowners Association for review and comment prior to public hearing to be held by Town Commission on January 8, 2016. I believe that condition was already met.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Gager?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Mr. Ortline?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next application. This is Perez Design for 800 Canary Wall.
Good morning, distinguished commissioners. For the record, my name is Francisco Perez Azul. I'm an architect of record for this project. The project consists of a significant addition to the existing residence, and I brought you some, in the Plaza Soleil neighborhood, I brought you a picture with the location of the property is on the western side of the neighborhood, right on Canary Walk on the cul-de-sac, and it borders some single-family homes, but to the west, commercial property that's the city of Delray Beach. There's it's a considerably large lot, and the owners, Mr. Artie Ermers is here, and the contractor, Matt Wolf, is here as well. The owners really like this property because it has a nice backyard. It's as you see from this view. There's some, the yellow house is the existing house, and then some of the adjacent homes to across the street and to the east, directly to the east. The existing house is about a little over 1,500 square feet with a 512-foot guest house and a one-car garage. The addition is we're adding an additional 1,300 square feet to the first floor, and putting a second floor addition of 1,173 square feet, and increasing the garage to 725 square feet, plus some covered patio, which the house is missing right now. That's a demolition plan. We're demolishing a portion. We're demolishing the existing garage so we can replace it with the new garage. And we're demolishing some portions of the house so we can extend it to the back. This is kind of the new site plan. So you see here where let me see if I can, I guess the cursor doesn't show up there, but you see the garage to the left side, the two-car garage. It's a 2.5-car garage. It's got a small space for a golf cart as well. And again, a view of the existing home. With the, you can tell in that picture where the one-car garage is. This is the back of the house. It's got a pool which we're going to retain, but just improve it somewhat, and the guest house which we're retaining as well, but again improving it substantially. And right now there's two different styles. The guest house is kind of a Bermuda style, and the house is mostly predominantly a Spanish style. So we're renovating the guest house so it matches the style of the main house, which is Spanish style. But this is some of the encumbrances and adjacent, the side setbacks of the house, some things like that have been built. And we're obviously going to remove all that, clean it up, and make it look real nice. Again, this is some of the existing conditions. That concrete wall, I believe, is to the commercial property to the west, and we're going to clean all that up. And the landscape it's had its life, so we're going to obviously restore all that to optimal conditions and remove the sheds. The elevation of the proposed residence with the two-story addition, we kept, I'm gonna show you a perspective so it looks a little better, but you can see there the two-car garage with the one-car golf cart, and we've pushed up the second story, kind of recessed it back, because we understand that we have primarily one-story residences around it, so we wanted the massing to be primarily one story on the front and on the east side. There's the floor plan of the addition with the guest house and the main house. And the rear elevation, we're creating a covered area. Oops, push down too many. In the back, we're creating a covered area to create a courtyard effect around the existing pool, and we are introducing arches to kind of reinforce a little bit of the Spanish character that the house already has. That's the roof plan, and you see the extent of the second floor compared to the first floor area of the house. At the second floor, that's an enlarged floor plan of the second floor. It's got 3 bedrooms and a small family room. And that's the overall site plan, the roof plan of the house. As you can see, you can tell here how we created the courtyard. We kept the existing guest house, and we are mimicking that with the covered patio on the east side, all one story. The landscape plan, again, was completely redo the landscape for the house, completely redo the septic field to match current codes. There's a plan list, and there's a view of the house from the front and another view from the back. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Very nice presentation, excellent, very helpful.
Thank you.
Did you coin the line modest Mediterranean? I thought it was a beauty. I mean, it does really convey what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, we're trying not to do something very heavy, some very simple, clean lines, and just take the massing of the house, create the beauty of the project, and again, the clean arches.
Are you replacing existing fenestration? Is this
Yes,
all new windows?
yeah, all new windows, yeah, right. The current house has 8-foot ceilings, so obviously we're gonna go to the 10-foot ceilings and just make the windows a little, make the windows go up to from 6'8" to 8 feet, all new impact windows.
Is the view from the view west from the second floor to the commercial property, what do they actually see of the commercial property, or is there?
We've kind of oriented the windows and to the southeast. So the windows in the second floor, although the second floor, interesting, is pushed to the west, the window is oriented to the southeast, so they can get a glimpse of the pool and because we don't know, we have no control of what they're going to do over there. So we're trying not to create any views to the west side.
Well, that was a leading question, but what are they going to do over there? I mean,
that's a general commercial zoning, so I don't know. I don't have any information on that, but I can only assume that. I know that at one point back in 2007 they had approved a multi-story project, but again, I don't know. That was back when everybody was building all sorts of crazy things. So
only reason I ask is if it isn't developed, and if there is a plan for its development, it's in another town, it's in Delray.
Yes.
Please have the owners let us know what their feelings are of whatever is going to be developed there, because that's something that we have a right or a responsibility, I think, to protect Gulfstream people from overdevelopment in another town.
Correct, in the neighboring, yeah.
But I think because that's going to be a very nice house, and you'd hate to have them be inconvenienced or otherwise affected negatively by something that they might have had some control over if we just asked the questions.
Correct, thank you.
I'm assuming neighbors are in support of this improvement.
Yes, I'll let Rita speak to
We
that.
had a call from, on this one also, from the board over there.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question that was mentioned at I saw it in the minutes of the ARPB, and it's also on the motions, and I don't know if this would be for you or maybe for Bill, about, the property owner shall prepare and sign a Gulfstream driveway removal agreement. I don't understand, I've never seen this before.
Okay, yeah, normally, we would handle it, I guess, on a level one. It is an agreement that property owners sign whenever they're extending into our right-of-way with paver bricks and such, so that in the event that the town has to do work on their property, the owner is responsible for the repair of whatever damage occurs
On their property.
on our property as well.
On our property, it's not right away. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Right.
Other questions? Comments?
I think it's lovely. I think it's really a unique design. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
An asset to the neighborhood.
Any comments from the public? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Bob, you were asking a lot of questions.
I can't read.
By default.
All right. So we got a series of motions for application 015-15, 800 Canary Walk. First motion is motion to recommend approval to demolish certain portions of an existing structure and remove 2 sheds from the property.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Second motion to recommend approval to clear the area of construction and replace landscape material in certain areas.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Third motion, motion to recommend approval for a special exception to permit the addition of a covered walkway that would attach to the existing non-conforming structures.
Second?
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Fourth motion, to recommend approval of level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed 3,451 square foot addition, a portion of which is a second story, to the existing 3,003 square foot family 1-story modest Mediterranean style dwelling with attached 2 and 1/2 car garage and a new swimming pool meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. Condition 1, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the owner of the property shall prepare and sign a Gulfstream driveway removal agreement. 2, any minor modifications in the landscape plan shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to commencement of landscaping. 3, plans to be submitted to Place au Soleil Homeowners Association for review and comment prior to public hearing to be held by Town Commission on January 8, 2016.
Question of fact, I don't have my reading glasses. It is not a new swimming pool. You said new swimming pool.
They're going to remodel.
They're gonna modify it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they don't need a permit to put in a new pool.
Donna, did you second?
Yes, I did.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's move on to reports. Mr. Brown?
Andy Brown, Brandon Gillespie. The holidays somewhat slowed down progress. It's hard to get operations going on with the agencies we're dealing with. Most people are on vacation. We've extended the bid period out for 3 weeks to get more bidders involved. And we've also already got some additional bidders involved from that. The for most difficult easements, we've reached agreement with those owners, and we're just about done with easements. As soon as we get a little bit of survey work done and get the instruments tweaked. The Comcast people are in the process of redesigning their fiber so we can, or their conduit system, so we can run fiber to the houses, as we discussed last meeting. We're still pursuing FPL with the LED lighting for A1A. They're sort of respond. I've answered answer any questions.
What, you said the holidays were slowing us down, everything slows us down, holidays or otherwise, but what is the status of, we all saw Comcast people with the big wheels and the wires. Have they taken their wires down from up above, or, I couldn't tell what they were doing, it looked like they were adding wires rather than taking them away.
Last month when I was out there, there was still a pretty significant amount of wires on the poles. They have to get the total underground system transferred over and connected up. And last time I talked to them about that, which was last month, they told me they were still in the process of finalizing that. I had a conversation with the design people and with the manager, construction manager yesterday. It says they're still working on it, trying to get it all done. But from going down there and looking pole to pole, there's still quite a bit of the coaxial cables up on the poles.
But that's the only wire that's up on the poles is actually doing something. I mean, I'm still confused as to, you can't take the poles down until everything is cool.
Until those communication wires are off.
Correct.
So Comcast is the holdup on doing that.
But the telephone wires are now
Yeah,
live underneath, underground.
yeah, they're complete.
Other questions? I hate to ask it, but I'm gonna do it anyway, which is, the economy is changing by the day. We still haven't opened the envelopes, but, there is a concern within the community, I'm sure, that, as circumstances have changed, the basic premise when we started this project was this is the time to start it because everybody's hungry for business. Is that still the case? Are there still enough people hungry for business where we can get some aggressive or competitive bids for the cost of the phase 2 project?
We'll get competitive bids, but the competition at this point is different. I know that one of the vendor that we used in Jupiter Island was from the west coast of Florida. And I know that they're not bidding this project. And I had a conversation with them and they told me that they were just slammed with work and had a hard time finding people. Other vendors have been monitoring this project all through the process, and those bidders they picked up plans and they're working on putting costs together. So if the market's not what it was, it's going to be higher. Yes, I still think that we're going to be okay.
When specifically will this room be filled with, hopefully filled with, people who want to take a shot at the project?
Right now we're looking at a pre-bid meeting on the 27th
of January.
We have a bid due date of February the 10th. We will likely talk to these bidders and find out if that's a problem, because this is a large scope. We only have about 3 weeks to do all the estimating. Some of them started early and some of them won't start until they get to the pre-bid meeting. So we just want to make sure that they don't walk away from it because of not having time to crank out their numbers.
So for the benefit of the people sitting in this room, sometime in February, probably late February from what you just said, we'll actually get some bids. And at that point in time, we'll know what's this going to cost us for phase 2. Fair statement?
Yes.
Probably March.
Pardon?
I said probably March.
Well, if we can get the bids in within a week, we should be able to award it. It'll probably be the second Friday of March when we make the recommendation to the commission as to which vendor to go with.
Okay.
upon approval of the commission, we'll be able to make an award.
We attended the first meeting, and I think it was only because we were here and they came in, or the other way around. Is this a public meeting? I mean, how does that process work for those people who really care about this whole thing a lot?
The interview meetings typically are public meetings, advertised public meetings. The award, the approval will be a commission meeting, that'll be a public meeting. Pre-bid meetings, I don't know if they're advertised or not.
No, I don't think they are, but
But they're not closed.
Okay, but for Rita's sake, do you have to advertise the actual meeting when the bids come in, the envelopes are open, and there is discussion? You remember? I mean, I can't remember from the last one.
I don't, I'll have to look back to see. I think it was, but it probably was not in a legal ad like,
Right, but it might be
public
posted out,
hearings.
posted out outside.
yeah.
Typically, when the bids come in, they basically provide a cursory review and acknowledge that we received the bid.
Mhm.
We open them up, typically provide the price that they're submitting, and that the package appears to be complete at this point, subject to further review.
And that's often a factor, which is, did everybody do what they were supposed to do? And often, sometimes they don't. What if there is an administrative error, do you give them a chance to correct it before you reject the bid? How does that work?
Well, if you remember last time, we had some bids that were not incomplete, and we had the choice of either rejecting the bid or rebidding. And we ended up rejecting that bid and going with the valid bids that we had.
I just think the public needs to know that this is a process, and that it's not behind the scenes, or, I mean, this is as transparent as you can make it. Practically.
Anything else, Mr. Brown? Please, sir.
Question from a resident,
By all means.
but do I need to go up here?
Yes, please.
Record your statements.
Bill Boardman, 3251 Polo Drive, speaking as a resident. In thinking about this, I think this whole project has, thanks to Bob, a lot of the environment in mind as far as aesthetics. That's part of what we're trying to accomplish. And the question I've had as I've looked around and seen the green boxes that are appearing as part of the south area. My question is, who has taken the responsibility to look at these plans and be sure that as best it can be done, they are preserving the aesthetic benefits? For instance, we have the alley on the east side of Polo. And someone should, I think, hopefully look at the project and say, where possible, the green boxes should be in the alley instead of out on Polo Drive and on Gulfstream Drive. And so my question is, who has looked at the plans and asked those questions so we minimize the effect on aesthetics?
Mr. Brown? It's actually a good question. We'd asked it before on phase one, because you'll see the boxes are there. They had to cut away foliage to install them, but there's no foliage now blocking them for that aesthetic appearance. And I remember being told that when completed, the project would put foliage back as best they could to its original condition.
We want to get the poles out before we do our landscaping on the south end. there will be some disruption from FPL when they can pull the poles out. The alley that you speak of, we are putting equipment in the ends of those north-south alley at the street ends. FPL now has requirements that all equipment has to be accessible from maintenance vehicles on the street. So that we have to have everything on the front and not the rear. So we can't put things down through the rear, through that alley. But we can put stuff at the ends of those alleys and set it back in the alley, typically 20, 25 feet, something like that, to try to get it back out of the way. And that we've done that at every opportunity.
But I think the bigger question would be, ideally, we would love to see a rendering of where these things are in relation to what's already there. For those, in those situations where it's obvious that it's gonna be somewhat intrusive. You know, one in my property is buried back, and when the foliage finally gets put back in, you hardly see it. But there are some people that are, you know, pretty offensive to see that darn thing sitting right in front of your house.
And we typically talk to each owner, so we have to get the easements, put these things in, and explain to them what the plan is, rather than making I guess, a town-wide presentation. Each owner will have different opinions of what they want done. Some of them want to match my existing landscaping. Some of them want a little different. Some of them don't want anything because they don't want to maintain any more than they have or less. So it's usually discussions with the owners as to what they're looking for.
Can the owner put foliage all the way around the box once it's in?
We have a lot of boxes where owners have put foliage all the way around.
That's okay.
If it's low foliage, FPL may come in and move it out of the way if they have to get into the box. Typically, their need to get in these boxes is very seldom.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was my understanding. You can plan around it as much as you want. If FPL has to come in and do some work and damages it, it's not gonna be much. You just put it back. Thank you, Mr. Manning. Nothing further. All right, let's move on to the town manager.
Mayor, I have no report.
All right, next ARPB meeting is January 28th at 8:30 a.m. Move to the finance director's report, Mr. Brady.
You have been provided financial information for the month of December 2015.
I have a question on cash flow. The approximately 75%, 73% of the taxes that we had forecast have been actually collected and are on our P&L. Given that most people in this town tend to pay by November 30th, is that about where you expect it to be, or are we running a little slower, or is it normal?
It's where I expected to
It's
be.
where you expect it to be.
Bill, I had a question. On the money for the water fund that's shown in the general fund, I'd probably ask this question, we ask this question every other year. When is that transferred over, showing it's pending, or is it we're keeping it in the general fund?
It's
It's just aggregate?
yeah, there's no reason to separate it,
Okay, that's what I thought.
segregate it, designate it.
You're
It's
just showing it-
visible
just
on
showing
the
it on
financial.
both. Yeah, I got you.
Becomes a liability for the general fund and an asset
Right.
for the utility.
Other questions? If not, Chief Ward, police activity report.
Accept it as submitted, please.
Shall accept as submitted. All right, let's move on to ordinance 15/9.
Mr. Minor, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
Mr. Gresham.
Mr. Minor, could I invite you to the podium? What?
This is ordinance number 15/9 being brought to the commission on first reading.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending Chapter 70 of the Town Code of Ordinances, the Gulfstream Design Manual, at Article 4, Site Development Regulations, eliminating Section 70-71, C in parentheses, incentive floor area ratio, amending Section 70-77, first floor elevation, and 70-78, seawall height, amending Chapter 70, Article 5, area-wide standards, Division 1, general architectural standards, at Section 70-100, roof and eave heights, Section 70-101, windows, Section 70-105, garages and accessory buildings, and Section 70-106, color, amending Chapter 70, Article 5, Division 3, general landscape standards, Section 70-148, principles, and creating a new Section 70-151, applicability and permitting, amending Chapter 70, Article 5, Division 4, general outdoor lighting standards, Section 70-166, purpose, categories, amending Chapter 70, Article 6, district standards, Section 70-187, table of district standards, amending Chapter 70, Article 7, predominant architectural styles, Division 2, Spanish Mediterranean revival style, Section 70-218, roofs, and Article 7, Division 3, Gulfstream Bermuda style, Section 70-238, roofs, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances of conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date, presented in the first reading, the 8th day of January, 2016.
That was a mouthful.
This was presented to you at the last meeting, you'll recall, and there were two questions that were raised at the time. One in regard to what does it mean by window coverings, and we've modified that to make it clear that we're talking about, in definition 2 on page 11, we're talking about exterior window coverings. The question was raised, does this deal with my drapes or what? But it's intended to deal with colors on exterior window covering, such as shutters, hurricane shutters, etc. And then there was another question raised at that meeting about whether or not Melaleuca, I think it was, should be excluded from this list of prohibited. Chapelera. And some research was done on that. I think Bill Thrasher contacted the county, who still has Chapelera on its prohibited invasive species list. So those were the two comments that we addressed from the last meeting.
Questions?
Is that the basis, because the county said, still has it on the list?
Not exclusive.
No.
Bill might want to explain that more.
We also, as suggested, spoke with the landscape architect that was a member of the ad hoc committee, and their office replied that that chapelleras are both invasive and exotic, and they would not recommend that they be any longer allowed in the town of Gulfstream in the landscape plan. And we also checked with Mr. Minor, who checked with his landscape people or authorities, and came back with the same conclusion. So the ordinance that you have presented here is excluding or prohibiting chapelera.
Does that mean if you have a chapelera, you have to take it out?
No, not at all.
I think
Landscape plans.
Yeah, okay, but I think people should understand that that's the case. You don't plant it, but if it's already there, it's invaded. I mean, some people like them.
Understood.
There's no amortization period in here, Marty?
No, there is not.
All right.
So questions? Questions of Mr. Minor, council, public? Mr. O'Hare?
Thank you. This is a first reading.
Yes.
First reading because it's come back.
agree
You were
with
talking
Mr. Ganger, I like
comment on the
chef
last
letters
one.
too. And let me skip right to that. As I understand it then, if you have a chef tree on your property, you can keep it unless you come in for a landscape plan, in which case it has to be removed. And the landscape plan would be dictated by, as we'll see here later, a 25% change in landscaping. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no other reason why anybody would take out their chef unless they make 25% change and apply for a landscape plan.
Yes.
Thank you. This modifies one of the 4 types of design standards that are in the code. We've got mandatory, preferred, discouraged, and prohibited. And according to section 70-4, the terms required and prohibited are mandatory. The terms preferred and discouraged are discretionary. So my question, if you don't mind answering, is when you make a modification to, sorry, bear with me. Ordinance. You know what, I'm going to save that for the other ordinance, I'm sorry, it's not in this one, nothing to see. I'd like to ask about the 3-car garage prohibition on, or rather it's allowed. Wait a second, 3-car garages facing the street are prohibited in all districts except beachfront and Ocean West. I imagine the 3-car garage is dictated by the size of the lot rather than the character of the neighborhood, and I'm just wondering why you're not more surgically precise and just say if your lot is so small, you can't do it, and if it's so big, you can do it, instead of saying everybody in this neighborhood, regardless of their size, can have it, and everybody in this neighborhood, regardless of their size, can't have it. It just seems to me to be more fair.
What page is that, Mr. O'Hare?
I'm sorry, that was 7105-3.
What page of the ordinance?
Oh, I'm sorry. 6.
Question is, why are 3-car garages prohibited in this section?
No, I was just suggesting that it might be more surgically precise to say if 3-car garages are a function of lot size, the ordinance perhaps should read, if your lot is over this size, you can have them. If your lot is under this size, you can't have them, instead of just penalizing an entire district with whatever their lot size happens to be. Just thought it might be more fair. So it's not really a question, it's a comment. One last thing. The modification to the landscape requirement. I know we've had this discussion before, but it says on page 14, property owners who revise or replace more than 25% of their existing landscaping shall comply. And to know how to comply with this, I again ask, is that 25% in one incident? Is it over a 6-month period, 12-month period? It's just 25% whenever Mr. Thresher says it's 25%. I don't understand. If you think this is clear enough, so be it, but I just think it needs a little bit more clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Boyle?
Morning again. I have not juxtaposed this ordinance 15.9 with the, I guess, design manual, and the reason for that is I just got this morning. But in looking at it, I have a few questions. We talk about seawall height, and that would be in the seventh line. Tell me what that means, if you will.
Sorry, what page?
Well, I'm on the ordinance under
The
15.
ordinance itself.
No, in the ordinance itself, seawall height.
70-78, comma, seawall height.
Yeah.
Yeah, 70, 78, that's correct.
References that section.
Page 3, I believe.
References page 3. Remember, we discussed this at length at several meetings regarding the new changes required as a result of satellite accuracy versus the older method of measuring heights that was just done topographically. And I believe we wanted to clarify it both ways, so we're using both the new and whatever the comparable is on the old, or vice versa. Is that correct?
Maximum height went from 5 to 6.
Yes.
Does this modification require a height specific for seawalls which are going to be installed?
Says new or
Perhaps.
replacement seawalls in this section.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And what's the wisdom? And the reason I say what's the wisdom is if you have a seawall this high, and you have the one next door this high, and the one next door on the other side this high, what did you accomplish? Except cost the person who put the new seawall in much more money. What did you accomplish?
May I read to you the section? Did you read the section that
No,
is
no,
being modified?
No, I said this is all I've seen.
Oh, well, it's attached to this document that you have in your hand. But it
Excuse me, can you
says,
tell
the
me where it
maximum
is?
height of a new or replacement seawall abutting waters connected to the intercoastal waterway shall be no greater than 6 feet NGVD or equivalent NAVD. So it's, in essence, allowing the seawall to be higher, but not making it mandatory.
Okay, so it could be lower.
Yeah, I guess it could be.
Wouldn't that create the same problem if you had this
If,
and I built one down here? Wouldn't that create a trough for the water to leave the body of water and join into the property?
that analogy may be appropriate as we go forward. However, most people, I've not seen a application come through that they want to lower the height of the seawall. They like to maintain the height of the seawall to the greatest height in order to protect them against rising sea water.
And I fully understand that, and I would personally do it at the higher height.
Right.
But if that's the case, why not make it a height fix at 6 foot?
But we're
Why
not,
give them that right to go lower?
we are saying that this ordinance becomes applicable as activity occurs.
But,
We're not making anybody just retrofit to this
but once the
arbitrary
ordinance,
height.
go ahead, I'm sorry. But once the ordinance occurs, they can build a lower seawall.
They could.
Okay, and I guess what I'm saying is, if the appropriate height would be 6 foot, why have the variable, why not just say 6 foot? It would be uniform, it would be protective, and you wouldn't have to worry about someone, for whatever reason it is, and I don't know what reason they would have, doing it 4 foot or 5 foot. And that's my question. It seems highly appropriate that you should do that, but I know you all make your own minds up, so I raise my point and I will go on. Again, I haven't seen the ordinance. The roof and eave heights, what is the change and what is the wisdom?
Again, do you have the document in front of you?
I do. This is, when you say the document, I have the the proposed easement 15-9.
Section 70-100.
Perhaps it would be helpful if you saw the ordinance itself?
I have the ordinance.
Okay. Then if you would go to page 3. That which is proposed to be eliminated is crossed through, and that which is to be
Mr.
added
Fletcher,
is
excuse me,
underlined.
I do not have it at page 3. This was on the table out there.
I'll give you mine.
Actually, you can come up and stand here with me if you like.
Well, Mr. O'Boyle, I think you know the answer to that.
Thank you. Thank you, this is very, very helpful. And this would be 70-100, would I be correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So here it says, and I assume the red lining is the only changes, Mr. Randolph?
Yes, strike out and underline is the new.
Okay. Entry features are the front portion of the structure which indicate and enhance the main entrance. The word enhance is somewhat vague. Enhance to me, enhance to you, enhance to you. I think if we all wrote them down privately, we'd have 3 enhances. Isn't there a better word that one could pick? And do we really care what enhance means? And what I mean by that is, don't the people who are spending these millions of dollars, don't you respect them enough to pick their main entrance? Don't you?
We've discussed this any number of times. I think this is the 3rd time I've seen this at a commission meeting. And we discussed it at some other meetings as well, which you were certainly invited to attend. We've gone over all this. The language is acceptable, at least to me. I don't know about the rest of the commission. And if anyone else wants to posit their remarks, they certainly may. Your remarks are noted for the record.
But I'd like an answer.
Your question is not really one that begs an answer.
It sure does.
You're just challenging questions and making essentially ad hominem attacks on this commission for trying to create ordinances that fairly and justly regulate the town's architectural standards. It's not designed with any disrespect. It's designed with full respect to our residents.
Can you then tell me what enhance means?
I'm not going to get into that sort of
So
question.
you don't know.
Mr. O'Boyle.
You obviously don't know. Does anyone else know that they can tell me?
Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Yes, I do. And just for the record, I'm going to state that the commission has refused to answer.
I think we did receive an answer from the mayor in regard to it. These types of regulations are common amongst architectural regulations are common amongst municipalities and say nothing about demeaning the requests of private property owners to design their home, but each municipality has regulations in that regard. And the word enhance, when taken in context, I think means exactly what it says. We're dealing with an entry feature which indicates the front of the house and which enhances the front of the house. And I'm satisfied with that, and I think our consultant is satisfied with that, and I think the ad hoc committee who came up with this language is satisfied with that.
That's fine, but the people who have to live with it perhaps aren't satisfied with that. And I don't want to continue debating, I'm going to finish it right here. But the word enhance, you're a lawyer, you know that that's vague, you know that that is nebulous. On the other hand, it will likely cause litigation, and you could even fact further.
And I will argue, if it is in litigation, that taken in context, it is not, it is easily understood.
Okay.
and it's
So
not vague.
if it's taken in litigation, you're saying you would win, and if you didn't, you do it for no fees. Okay, let's move on. In 7106, you speak of color. Now, is color not taste?
What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher, I said, is color not taste? I mean, color's taste, isn't it?
What you're getting at, people choose colors because they like their house to look a certain,
Yeah.
have a certain color.
They like,
I guess
they like their house,
Yeah, okay.
not you like their house, they like their house.
Color relates to aesthetics, and aesthetics have been approved in many zoning cases as a legitimate zoning tool.
And they have not been approved in many cases as a legitimate zoning tool. And the United States Supreme Court, Mr. Justice Scalia, I think I gave you the case last time, I think it was Owens v. Illinois. If you read that, I think you would maybe take a different approach. But I mean, here's where I'm coming from. Aside from the Supreme Court and the other towns and so forth, if I want my town, my house to be white, light green, if I hire a designer and he wants my front door to be black or yellow, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but who are you to tell me no?
What if you want purple with black polka dots on your house?
Then I ought to be able to put purple with black polka dots on
All
my
right, then I
house.
think we understand you. Thank you.
Okay, well, how about if you like purple with black polka dots on your car? And you
I'm not
live,
gonna
and
do
you
that.
live in Coral Gables? Think about that.
Do you have any other comments,
I do.
Mr. O'Boyle?
I
Let's move on to the next one, please.
The outdoor lighting standards, I think it's 7106, if I'm reading it right, am I correct?
You tell us. Would you cite the page, please?
I'm looking for it in I have it here. I see. I didn't see this before, but the principal building color is whatever you want.
Security lighting looks like 7166, page 14, Mr. Scanlon pointed out.
I'm on page, well, I apologize, I'm a little discombobulated. Did you say 7166? Yes.
Yeah, landscape and or security lighting permit is required for any such work. That's it's.
Okay, so there's no standard for it, it's just a requirement for a permit. Is that correct?
Yep. 16A. I'm sorry, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. I said, so there's no standard for it, it's just a requirement that you obtain a permit. Would that be correct?
The language says a permit is required for any of the work that's then described in the language of the ordinance of that
Okay.
section.
So then a permit is required for it, but there's no
For that
approved.
type of work.
Pardon?
For that type of work.
For that type of work,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then I think lastly, we get to roofs. And I speak primarily for Mr. O'Hare, who has not had a roof in
That's section
years.
7218, beginning on page 15.
Okay,
Then going to section 7238.
you guys move too
On that
fast for me.
page. sir.
As soon as I find it, I'll be glad to give it to you. I'm on page 15, but I don't see, oh, okay, I think it's
The bottom.
page 17 would be?
16.
So hand top of page 7.
15.
Okay. Okay. Metal roofs, what's the issue? Even Mr. Randolph said I rode down Federal Highway and they're absolutely beautiful. What's the issue? They're all over the place. Drive to Palm Beach, drive to Fort Lauderdale, they're all over the place. What's the issue? Why prohibit them? What's the issue?
Metal roofs have been discussed, debated, argued about as long as I've been in this town.
Not with me.
Well, whether, I don't know with you or not.
Well, I'm entitled to
But
an answer.
the town has always prohibited them. There are exceptions under which you can get them, as Mr. O'Hare certainly knows, and you know.
I don't know.
But, well, I'm sure you can learn. But it's something that the commission and apparently the public, because they certainly do influence decisions by the commission. It's always been my sense in this town that the residents do not want metal roofs, and the commission does not want metal roofs as a standard. That you can get them if your roof cannot support the required type of roofing material.
I'll just digress for 30 seconds. I used to live in New Jersey, in Atco, New Jersey. It was somewhat rural. A man built a house there, and someone wanted to have a big lot across the street, maybe 50 acres. And he came in and objected when they developed it, and he said, I moved out here to have peace and serenity and plenty of land. Now these people want to build a shopping center. That's not what I wanted. And my response to him was, if that's not what you want, buy the land. If not, let him do it. He can't control that man's land. That man's entitled to use that land. I don't see what gives the town to say, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like green, I don't like yellow, I don't like metal. And have this poor man here not be able to have a roof. I just don't understand it, and I have to tell you, I think it's part of well, I think it's a part of the viciousness of the town. If you think that a metal roof will hurt the value of the town, I think you're off your rocker. And I can tell you this, maybe when you guys all go hide in the kitchen afterwards, maybe Mr. Randolph will share with you what he has seen. Thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else care to comment on the ordinance? Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Boyle. How are you today?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Go back. Tony Graziano on Polo Drive, speaking on behalf of myself. I have a question about the back and forth with the commission on the outdoor lighting. I understand that you need a permit to put in the outdoor lighting, but then with the colloquy that went back and forth, it sounded as if to get the permit, there are no standards for the outdoor lighting. Is that literally correct? I can get any kind of outdoor lighting I want as long as I file for a permit?
No.
Because as I heard the back and forth, I think that's where Mr. O'Boyle went. That is, he can, as long as he files for a permit, there are no standards in the ordinance as to what kind of outdoor lighting he can put in. And it struck me that that was an incorrect impression that was left on the record.
Yeah, I thought he was just asking whether you have to have a permit.
No, I think, although he was speaking rather quietly, I think he then all asked, well, then there's no standard in the ordinance, and I think somebody said yes, meaning that's correct. And so he left with the impression that as long as he files for a permit, there is absolutely no standard
No, I
to
said
which he has
reflects
to
to
apply.
the ordinance itself. The ordinance contains standards, but the new language being added is that you must have a permit.
I thought I understood what was going on, Mr. Mayor, but I think
Well, thank
Mr.
you.
Boyle left with an
Clarifying.
incorrect impression.
May I comment on that?
Of course.
Mr. Graziano, anecdotally, there was a point in time when one of the golf courses here in town wanted to put outdoor lighting so you could play golf at night.
No.
And there was, and I researched it, and there was a very clear standard for outdoor lighting in the town in terms of the lumens and that. I mean, it's the typical, get you, you know, what you can't do. So for the record, I think, I can't refer to it, I don't have the book in front of me, but I can assure you that you cannot go up and put, you know, atomic lighting in this town with or without a permit.
Okay, any other comments? If not, we've had ordinance number 15/9 back for first reading. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve ordinance number 15-9.
Second. On first reading.
On first reading.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein? Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Let's move on to ordinance number 16/01. Ms. Taylor?
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, pardon me, amending the town's code of ordinances to amend section 66-397, open land uses, to add additional landscaping buffer requirements for two-story homes within certain zoning districts, to amend section 70-73, two-story structures, to provide additional second-story setbacks in certain zoning districts, to amend section 70-74, setbacks, to reference second-story setback changes, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date, presented on first reading this 8th day of January 2016.
Now, this is an important issue. It's been debated and discussed and studied and reviewed. Mr. Minor, you've worked on.
Yes, I've worked with the ad hoc committee on this issue, and it largely deals with, first of all, Marty Minor for Urban Design QLA Studios for the record, and Happy New Year. Pleasure to be with you. Worked with the ad hoc committee. The concern largely dealt with small to medium-sized lots and the impacts that a larger second floor could have to your neighbors. And we looked at, with the committee, various different options, and the ordinance before you is the result of all those discussions that we've had during the fall. It applies to 3 districts which have traditionally the smaller lots. One of the first changes is the second floor size area is reduced from 70% of the first floor area to 50%. Please note, with all these changes, the overall area of the house and the limitations set by the FAR does not change. You know, these just will change the shape of the homes from the boxes, but not the total area of the homes. It's not taking away any area from someone's property rights. So that goes from 70 to 50, so you'll have a smaller area on the second floor. In addition, with your handout, something we worked through with the committee, that the second floor is set back 15% of the width of the house. And if you, for example, a 100-foot wide lot, you can build a 70-foot wide house and still meet all the setbacks that's currently in our code. This would require that second floor setback to be 15%, and in this example, a little over 10 feet from the outside walls to help bring that in. And so you don't necessarily have a 20-foot wall next 15 feet from adjacent properties. And the last portion of this is if you are adding a second floor or you're building a house with a second floor along that property line, we've asked that the trees be 2 feet higher at planting. Right now, the code requires it at 10 feet